Today on Reviewing a Reviewer, we're reviewing the mysterious Mr. Enter. He has a stupid face. He talks about Teen Titans Go a lot. He's a stupid, meanie, poopy-head face.
Mr. Chipmunks, what the hell are you doing?
What do you think I'm doing? I'm reviewing a reviewer. I'm reviewing the mysterious Mr. Enter, duh.
I've already done 3 videos on the guy, and he's kind of becoming an overdone topic, so no. And besides, I'm doing this episode on somebody else.
Oh, which one is it? AVGN, Irate Gamer, wait, he's not relevant anymore. Game Theory, Anita Sarkeesian, IGN, which one is it?
No, I'm actually doing this episode on a guy named A Salieri.
A Salieri? Who the fuck is that?
Well, that's a good question, Mr. Chipmunk. Allow me to explain how to review a reviewer that reviews other reviewers. Reviewception. Cue the video. Hello everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Examining. And today we're going to examine an internet god, A Salieri, the guy that reviews reviewers. Now I could give a unnecessary, long-winded explanation about who this guy is, but let's be honest, you guys don't want to see that, so let's jump right into the video, shall we? Around 2006 to 2007, when YouTube was still in its early nascent stages, nobody knew what it would eventually become, and nobody certainly knew the potential that it had. All anybody ever knew is that people could make videos about stuff and gain a large audience from it. And back in those days, people were making quality, entertaining content regardless of the subject matter that was presented, and YouTube was starting to gain a following. I refer to 2006 to 2009 as YouTube's golden years. It was fantastic. And around that time, video game reviewing had become increasingly popular, or to be more specific, angry video game reviewing, which was spawned from the massive success of the angry video game nerd. As I previously mentioned in my Guide to Surviving the Internet episode on the AVGN, there were all these AVGN clones running around. It was absolutely insane. Everybody jumped on the angry reviewing bandwagon because people assumed if they made angry video game reviews in the same style as James Rolfe, then they would become popular too. And unsurprisingly, most of those channels failed. And even the ones that gained a decent following were either mediocre or just downright terrible. It was also around this time where A Salieri came up with this really brilliant, obvious concept. If video game reviewers review video games and critique them and all that stuff, why not review the actual reviewers? Now, at the time, this was a relatively new concept. Nobody had ever really thought of this. I mean, it's brilliant and obvious on paper and when you really think about it, but nobody knew they wanted this until A Salieri came along and really, satiated the market for this kind of stuff. And I really enjoy reviewing a reviewer. I think it's a great series. It's a great series because of its great writing, its sharp, witty humor, its fantastic editing, and he makes a lot of really, really good points because a lot of the people he reviews on that show are pretty friggin' terrible. It's quite staggering. He's gone after people like, the AVGN, NC-17 Productions, the Irate Gamer, the Pissed Off Video Gamer, among many others, And what I like about it is that it's harsh, it's brutally honest, but, it's also really fair. He, again, makes a lot of good points. He is very spot on most of the time with a lot of his criticisms, and it's also really funny as well. I mean, I still watch the RAAR episodes from time to time, and I can still get as much entertainment value out of them now as I did back, around 2009, 2010, or whatever, It's just insane, and it's also spawned other series like Critiquing the Critics, and even this show that you're watching right now. Yes, Examining was inspired by RAAR, and I'm not ashamed of admitting that, because it's really good, Now, of course, I could just talk about how great reviewing a reviewer is, but I figured I would show you. So here are a few clips from RAAR, so you can get a pretty good sense of what it's about.
Unlike what his name suggests, there's nothing terribly hardcore happening with this guy. But no one under 17 should be subjected to watching his terribly crappy videos. Then again, for that matter, no one at all should be. And don't be fooled by the name. He's less entertaining than picking your nose and rolling up a ball of snot to play with. and he gives you about as much satisfaction as eating the snot ball after you're done playing with it. That's right, he's projecting his desires and expectations through his theme song. Amateur. Yoga fire comes from your throat, man. Didn't you learn anything from Street Fighter 2?
Talk about biting the hand that feeds you. Oh, Emmer, nice remark about my whiny bitch of a wife, as you call her. I guess you prefer your cat because it's the only pussy you'll ever be able to touch in your entire miserable existence. Maybe that's why you wear this expression 24/7. Not even joking, here's him a few years ago, and here's him today. Maybe if instead of reviewing mailed samples of deodorant, you were to actually, I don't know, use deodorant?
It's got such a powerful stink to it. Oh!
Unfortunately, the RAAR episodes have been split apart due to the fact that A Salieri's first channel was taken down due to false flagging. However, thankfully, somebody re-uploaded most of the old RAAR episodes onto YouTube, so you can still watch them. I'll leave a link in the description down below to the playlist, and I highly suggest you watch RAAR. It's absolutely fantastic, and you'll get a huge kick out of it, I guarantee it. Now, I've highlighted the good, now here comes the bad. Now don't get me wrong, I like A Salieri, I'm subscribed to him, I think he overall makes pretty good content, but that doesn't mean I don't have my criticisms about him. Now, yes, I know I gushed about RAAR, and I know he makes other types of videos other than RAAR, but let's be honest, RAAR is pretty much the only thing that he's really known for. It's practically his bread and butter. So, in order to talk about the criticisms of A Salieri, I'm going to take a page out of the book of the now retired commentator Megadupe TV, and we're going to talk about common sense. Everybody knows that Clay Claymor's Where's My Ad Revenue video was absolutely terrible. In fact, it's worse than terrible, it's absolute cancer. It's the equivalent of playing hockey, having an empty net to score a free goal, and still missing. The video is terrible on every conceivable level, and the like-to-dislike ratio reflects this. But aside from that's doable, most people tend to forget about A Salieri's video on the exact same subject. And I don't know why, because it's just as awful, if not worse. Now, I'm not going to commentate on the entire thing. There are 3 specific points that I want to highlight and address. Now, I would like to show you the video in real time so you can get a sense of what he actually said. Unfortunately, it's gone. Literally, I searched everywhere. It's fucking gone. It's been completely wiped off the internet. I guess he realized that it was poorly made, poorly researched, and the like-to-dislike ratio on that one was also pretty horrendous, so he pretty much wiped any trace of it ever existing on the internet. The only trace of it existing on the internet is that Doable's commentary, and it's not really suitable to commentate because, you know, he has his face in front of it and it wouldn't really work, so you're gonna have to deal with me outlining the criticisms on video, so please bear with me. So one of the points that I want to address is the fact that he said that if people want YouTube to change, then just boycott the site. Now, on paper, this sounds like a good idea, and under normal circumstances, it would be a sensible decision. But it falls apart when you look at the landscape of what YouTube is now. If these issues were occurring in 2006 or 2007 when YouTube was still relatively small, then okay, a boycott would make sense. But YouTube is so large nowadays that a boycott is practically impossible. And the reason it's practically impossible is because YouTube has millions upon millions upon millions of users. In order for a boycott to even be practical and actually make sense, most YouTubers would have to mutually agree to a boycott. And there's a lot of YouTubers out there that don't even know about Where's the Fair Use. And while yes, there are many YouTubers that actually do know about Where's the Fair Use, not all of them would be compelled to actually fight for it. So a boycott would be essentially pointless. Now you could argue, why doesn't a select group of people just boycott YouTube? Think about that for a second. Do you really, honestly think, even for a second, that YouTube would care if a small group of people boycott their site? They don't care. It wouldn't really work, because YouTube knows even if a few people leave and boycott it, there's going to be several other users to take their place, so they literally wouldn't care. It would be a drop in the bucket for them. So again, a boycott wouldn't really even work. He also suggests people to move on to other video sites. Now, this also falls apart because, really, YouTube is practically the top video sharing website on the internet. Sure, yeah, there are other sites like Dailymotion, Vimeo, and VidMe, but those websites don't have a fraction of the audience that YouTube has. So, as much as YouTube can royally piss off people sometimes, and it does that with great pleasure, people are stuck with it because they don't really have any other options. It's not like people are making videos on Dailymotion, Vimeo, or VidMe. It's not like they're getting dozens upon dozens of views. No, because they have a very limited audience. And really, though, if there was a true competitor to YouTube out there, don't you think people would have already left YouTube if that were an option? And even right now, people are starting to upload their videos onto secondary sites as a safeguard in case, YouTube decides it wants to screw over its content creators and just be an absolute dick to everybody. So that is starting to happen, but really, most people are stuck with YouTube because, that's really the whole thing, right? The second point he brings up that I want to address is the fact that he projects his own bitterness towards getting his first channel falsely flagged by Jay Friedan as a pretty much a catalyst in a way of criticizing people that supported Where's the Fair Use, saying that they don't care about smaller channels that get hit by this, but when it's a bigger channel, everybody loses their minds, right? Here's the thing. You can clearly tell in the video, I wish I could show it, but in the video you can clearly tell that he is essentially projecting his own bitterness towards his channel getting falsely flagged, and he's using it to try and discredit the movement as a whole. Now here's the thing. You, A Salieri, and I'm speaking to you directly here, you know how broken and corrupt the system is. You know that copyright and fair use is a problem on YouTube. You know it's abused by companies and individuals to take down videos they simply don't like. You went through it with Mike Matei and Jay Friedan and House in 920. He false flagged 2 of your videos. Let's keep in mind. So you know how broken the system is. So wouldn't it make sense to actually do something about it and talk about it and say that it's wrong? Oh, but no. That would require work. That would require effort. And it's funny that you criticized people for supporting Where's the Fair Use, decrying it as a slacktivist hashtag, but yet you didn't really do anything to try and come up with any sort of solutions or to fix the problems that were going on or to even address it. You just essentially insulted everyone for supporting it, calling them essentially mindless thugs. Brainwashed thugs. Excuse me. And really, that's one of the things that really bugs me about A Salieri, is that he can kind of come off at times as being a really smug, condescending douchebag. And I get it. You have an opposing point of view, and that's totally okay. But if you're going to be a contrarian for the sake of being a contrarian, then it's probably not a good idea to insult the audience you're trying to reach directly, because then they're not going to bother listening to what you actually have to say. They're just going to think you're a fucking douchebag, and all that time you spent trying to build up points to properly convey how you really feel about something is essentially completely wasted. And I get, again, getting back to my point, you were affected by the system. Most YouTubers have been affected by this system. But because Doug Walker of Channel Awesome, who you hate so much, and I'll get to that in a second, since he spearheaded the movement, it suddenly has, no credibility because he's the one that spearheaded it, which is just so incredibly stupid that it defies any sort of logical comprehension, really. And it's funny how you said that Where's the Fair Use was not going to change anything and was just a slacktivist hashtag, when a few days after that video came out, a video that you deleted, by the way, the CEO of YouTube, Susan Wojcicki, actually addressed the claims and said she was going to make changes to try and address them. And the Content ID system was changed last year. Basically, when a video gets flagged now, the money still goes to the person that claimed it, but if the content creator can successfully prove that their video is under fair use, the money goes back to them. And while it's not a perfect system, it's a small step. at least it's something, and that wouldn't have happened if people hadn't spoke out about it. If people hadn't said, no, this is wrong, this is bullshit. You can't have companies and individuals come in here and just take down videos just because they feel like it, just because they don't like it. We're going to speak out about this. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I'm glad people did, because if people didn't, honestly, that wouldn't have even occurred. Changes don't occur. If you just stand there and are complacent, you don't do anything, then how do you expect anything to ever get better? Right? And then the last point. This is why he truly doesn't like Where's the Fair Use. It's because Doug Walker, aka the Nostalgia Critic, was the one that spearheaded it in the first place. Now, if you know anything about A Salieri, you know that he absolutely hates Doug Walker and the rest of Channel Awesome with a burning passion, in fact. Now, I'll cover more about that in the next part, but really, it's not exactly a good reason to do that. He accuses him of being money grubbing, and that the only reason he created Where's the Fair Use in the first place is because he's losing relevance and he needs money and he's irrelevant, blah 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 blah, which is completely nonsensical, because I think he did it for the most part because he genuinely cares about the YouTube community, and it shows that channels of all sizes, whether they're big or small, are affected by this, and that it is a rampant problem. And he was the first one to address it, and many other content creators addressed it, which is how the hashtag got started. And if he didn't do that, then really, Where's the Fair Use wouldn't have even existed in the first place. Copyright and fair use issues are a problem on YouTube, and they need to be addressed, and YouTube needs to be held accountable for it, because it's wrong. And you say, oh, he just did it for the money. Now, to be fair, to a certain extent, he did do it for the money, and there is a reason for that. It's because Channel Awesome is a production company. A lot of people seem to forget this, but Channel Awesome is a production company. And what does a production company need to operate? Well, it needs money, because not only do they need money to produce the various shows they have on their network, but they need to pay their employees, and they need to pay the people that contract their services to them. So of course they need money. So if something's affecting your livelihood and your business, of course you're going to speak out about it. If you were in Doug's shoes, if you were in the exact same position, would you honestly not speak out about it? You don't tell me you're just going to be complacent and not say anything. Don't tell me you're just going to pretend that it doesn't exist or whatever. No, you're going to speak out about it because it's directly affecting your livelihood, it's directly affecting your business, and since, that's how Doug makes his living, considering that's how it's pretty much his career, yeah, he has a right to speak out about it. It doesn't make him a greedy douchebag. It doesn't make him money hungry. He's somebody that's looking out for his business, which is what any business owner would do. Yet you don't seem to really get this, and yet you just essentially say that he's just doing this for the money, using your biased hatred of Channel Awesome as a catalyst to try and discredit your movement as a whole, which didn't really work. Now, I could go on and on and on about how flawed this video is, but that would take hours, and I don't want to go into 9,000 hour time here. But simply put, the video was not very well thought out. It was poorly researched. He even admitted that he didn't want to do any research because he was just wanting to pump out the video as fast as it can. And really, it's the prime example of why you should never make videos based on knee-jerk reactions. And it's the prime example of how terribly unresearched and poorly thought out videos can be. It's absolutely awful. And I wish I could show you it, but unfortunately he took it down, probably because he realized how terrible it was, and the like to dislike ratio probably scared him off. So there you go. Now let's talk about his enemies, and oh boy, this one's gonna be a real treat. Why does A Salieri hate Channel Awesome so much? I previously thought it was just because he found them to be unfunny and untalented, and I thought that was the legitimate reason, until I did some digging for this video, and the real reason as to why Asa hates Channel Awesome so much is quite shocking. Back in the day when Asa was first starting out, he decided that it would be a wonderful idea to start a little e-drama with the various members of Channel Awesome, back when it was known as That Guy with the Glasses, and its fans. Unsurprisingly, this resulted in him getting banned from their forums, and this isn't something that he's gotten over. This isn't something that he's moved on from. In the years after, he has become increasingly bitter and hostile towards Doug Walker and the rest of Channel Awesome. He also did something similar on an online RPG called Gaia Online, so it wasn't even the first time he had done something like this. Now don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with not liking somebody because you don't find them to be funny or talented, or simply because you don't like their personality. That's totally fine. But if you hate somebody, or more specifically a group of people, simply because you're mad and bitter because they banned you from their forums because you were starting drama and just being a general nuisance, then no, that's not a good reason to hate somebody, because it just makes you come off as bitter, petty, and maybe even a little jealous. And I don't normally throw that word out there, just so you know. He also did a similar thing to Reviewtopia. He had tried to join Reviewtopia, and if you don't know what Reviewtopia is, it's essentially a discount version of Channel Awesome. Yeah, Asa tried to join Reviewtopia. Unfortunately, they rejected him, and he was so salty about the entire thing that he decided to make an RAAR on them, deriding the entire site as crappy.
Reviewtopia is a bunch of unoriginal dudes who want to make a quick buck by boring you to tears. And don't you love this completely non-generic looking robot they lovingly called RAAR? Couldn't they call him Larry? The Y could stand for, why the fuck do you want to go to the bottom of the barrel to watch badly edited, badly thought up reviews? Rethink reviews is their slogan. But they're not rethinking them, they're just repackaging them for people who don't know any better. There's nothing new, nothing exorbitant, zany, original, different, or great about Reviewtopia, as evidenced by their name, which took them all of 5 seconds to coin.
A site that you so desperately tried to be a part of is apparently unoriginal and crappy. It couldn't have anything to do with the fact that they rejected you, and the only reason you made the RAAR in the first place is because you were salty about the fact they rejected you. And if it was so unoriginal and crappy as you claim in that video, why did you even think about joining Reviewtopia in the first place? I mean, that doesn't really make a lot of sense. I don't know, that's assuming that particular RAAR makes any sense. Now, I initially liked that video, and it was one of my favorites, but after I did some digging and found out the real reason for its creation, I now look at it at a different light, and honestly... anyways, let's just move on. Another thing that I don't like about A Salieri is the fact that he'll just throw out assumptions. Just assumptions, without really any evidence to back it up, and he'll also go to unfathomable lengths sometimes to spite people that he doesn't like. A clear example of this is the AVGN. Now, he also, very much like Doug Walker and Channel Awesome, he hates the AVGN. Why does he hate the AVGN? I honestly couldn't tell you. I really don't know. He just doesn't like him for some reason that really escapes me. Although you could argue that Mike Matei flagging one of his videos is the reason he doesn't like AVGN. And to be fair, I don't think Mike Matei was right for false flagging people that spoke negatively about the AVGN. I don't care who does it. False flagging is wrong, regardless of who does it. It's stupid. But again, his issues seem to really stem more from Mike Matei and his false flagging nature, rather than the AVGN himself. Now, when the AVGN movie was, being crowdfunded and being pitched and all that other stuff, he accused James of e-begging and taking advantage of his fans to get this movie made. Now, everybody knows it was absolute bullshit because he didn't really have any evidence to back up what he was saying. He was just going by assumptions, calling him money hungry and grubby and, scummy and all this other shit. Here's the thing. AVGN is an enormously successful web series. Nobody is gonna argue with that fact. And it's safe to assume that James has pocketed a pretty nice amount from its success. But it's not like the AVGN is bringing in so much money to the point where he can just finance a full-length feature film on his own. That's just not possible. Unless you're super loaded, and let's be honest, most people on Earth are not super loaded, that's impossible. Which is why crowdfunding exists. Here's the thing. When you factor in everything that goes into making a movie, making movies is expensive. It doesn't matter if you're making a big budget tentpole blockbuster or a small independent affair. There's a lot that goes into making a movie. And it doesn't come cheap, especially for us average Joes. The reason he crowdfunded the AVGN movie in the first place is because he knew people would pay for its creation, because people loved the AVGN character so much that they would want to see a movie get made, and a movie featuring the AVGN and all of his hilarious angry antics makes a lot of sense. And A Salieri tried to treat it as if it was a spur-of-the-moment type of thing, that James suddenly decided that he wanted to make the movie and he wanted his fans to pay for it, which is actually not the case. The AVGN movie had been kicking around since 2007. The idea had existed for years. You know, if it was a spur-of-the-moment type of thing, then okay, Asa, you would have a point. Yeah, he would be, you know, he'd be scummy, he'd be money-grubbing, yeah. But that's not what the thing was to begin with. He had a roadmap, he had a clear plan for making the movie and getting it off the ground and seeing it get made, and then he went to crowdfunding with that plan, pitched it to everybody, and people paid for it. And I personally believe the AVGN movie is the perfect example of how to run a crowdfunding campaign. It was transparent, he had multiple updates, and the movie eventually got released in 2014, so people got what they paid for. He wasn't trying to swindle anyone or take advantage of anyone. You essentially used your biased hatred of the AVGN to try and accuse him of e-begging when he wasn't actually e-begging. You know, it was so poorly researched and so poorly thought out that I'm surprised more people didn't call you out for those videos back in the day. I mean, at the time I watched those videos and I liked them because I didn't really know any better. I didn't really know everything that was behind it. Now again, I mean, the lengths that Asa went to try and spite the AVGN because of this movie is quite staggering. He went so far as to actually pirate the AVGN movie so he could review it on his channel. No, I'm not kidding. He actually did this. Not only is it bitter and petty, but it's also incredibly illegal. It's illegal to pirate a movie, it's illegal to pirate a TV show, and it's illegal to pirate video games. And if you get caught and convicted, you're going to jail for a long time. And the fact that you would go to those kind of lengths to the point where you're willing to break the law just to spite somebody you don't like for some stupid fucking reason is just ridiculous. And one could even argue that, you know, he's bitter, petty, maybe even a little jealous towards James' success, that he's projecting his own failures onto James. The one could make that argument, honestly. Now, before I end this video, an examining A Salieri video wouldn't be complete if I didn't mention the whole Halcyon thing. Now, I'm not going to go completely in depth with it because that's been kind of done to death at this point, so I'm gonna give the abridged version here. Basically, their friendship fell apart because of a Sonic game. And not just any Sonic game, Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing Transformed. Yeah, and it's just as stupid as you think it is. Their friendship fell apart, and they had a huge public fight because of a fucking Sonic game. I'm sorry, I honestly couldn't make this shit up, even if I tried, even if you paid me. This is just golden. Now, I want to make it abundantly clear that I don't think either side was right in this whole situation. I think Helsing was completely wrong in his whole attitude throughout the whole thing. I don't think it was right for him to completely freak out because somebody didn't like a Sonic game. I mean, somebody not liking a Sonic game is not a crime against humanity. It's not a crime against the world. And going on Facebook to whine about it is just fucking pathetic. It really is. No matter how old you are, you gotta admit, it's pathetic. And he was also wrong for flagging down Asa's 2 videos on him, which was even worse than the time he called Doodle Tones Doodle Turds. But Asa also wasn't right for posting the video about the whole ordeal, essentially bringing it to public knowledge in the first place. I don't think that was a necessarily smart idea, because it just added more fuel to the fire, and it just made the whole thing an entire shitshow, and I personally think that was just as immature, if not more so, than what Helsing did. You know, it would have been better if they just resolved the matters privately or just went their separate ways privately, but no, they decided to engage in a whole public shit-flitting contest because, you know, YouTube loves drama. Everybody loves that shit. Everybody can't get enough of it. That's really why it exists. And honestly, one could make the argument that Hellsin and A Salieri are no different than one another. You could argue that they're both irrelevant attention whores that have an insatiable thirst for drama and are looking for attention. One could really make that argument. But those aren't my words. That's really for you to decide, really. Alright, that's all I gotta say about A Salieri's enemies. Let's give this thing a final score. Let's fire up the examometer and give this channel a score. A Salieri can be smug, condescending, and arrogant. He can throw out assumptions without any evidence to back them up, and he can go to absolutely unbelievable lengths despite people he doesn't like. And he can also have a bad habit towards holding bitter, petty grudges against people he doesn't like. But the content itself is not terrible. In fact, it's actually quite good. I mean, seriously, the reviewers, or RARs for short, are really great. And some of his non-RAR videos are actually pretty good too. Now, if you don't like the things that I previously mentioned, then this channel is not for you, because you're probably going to get turned off pretty quickly. However, if you don't mind all that and can even enjoy it, then you'll probably like this channel. You'll probably think it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. Hell, this channel is worth checking out just for the RARs alone. That's why this channel only gets a rating of weak sauce. Well, this examination is over. This is ThatKidDouglas, aka the Unhero, signing out. Deuces, stay frosty and keep it weird. Cue an outro sequence now.